So hello again and welcome back. So yesterday we looked at a beautiful box of flowers that had arrived from Evolve Flowers. They'd been delivered by Yodel and I've conditioned them overnight for a good sort of 12 or 15 hours. They're looking gorgeous. We're going to have a look at the different varieties in a moment. And when the flowers arrive, they come with flower food, which is in a compostable bag, so that's fantastic. You can get rid of that along with all the packaging that the flowers were presented in, and it comes with some care instructions as well. So if you're new to arranging flowers, there's lots of information on there to help you present and look after those flowers really well. Now, yesterday I mistakenly told you that all the flower material had come from Lincolnshire, and I've had a look through the information that was provided from Evolve and I've read through it more clearly, and it identifies the different areas of the UK that the flowers have come from. So these gorgeous different coloured pink ranunculus have come from Norfolk, absolutely fantastic. Gorgeous solid heads. You can see that these are really going to last quite a long length of time. Plenty of buds on there to give me a variety of shapes as well. Also, now yesterday the eagle-eyed ones amongst you will have noticed that I referred to the Alstromeria as being Lysianthus. I think it was the excitement of having a box of flowers delivered to me. And these are a gorgeous cream shade, really pretty colour. And I've selected, you can probably see my container here, they're going to coordinate really nicely with the colour of my base. It's got a slight pink fleck in it, and if you've had British Alstromeria before, you'll know that they're always a really good quality. Nice strong stems. The foliage has been removed off the bottom already for me. And if you have sensitive skin, then be careful with the Alstromeria because it can be a bit of an irritant for you. If you're preparing it, consider wearing gloves. Now, also from Norfolk is the iris, and the iris are really beautiful. You'll see since yesterday already there's some yellow colour showing in the stems. Yesterday there was just a tiny bit of yellow colour showing, and that's the best way to buy iris, is when there's a small amount of colour showing, because you know then that they're going to open, and within a couple of days they'll really burst open and give you that very vibrant star-shaped flower. If you buy them when they're not showing colour, there's a good chance that they won't open up, but that's a really pretty, very vibrant, proper yellow, you know, and alongside the cream, that's going to work really well. Now, irises, I don't tend to work a lot with irises as a commercial florist because they don't have a huge lifespan, but I'm estimating you're probably going to get a good 10 days out of these. So we'll have a look at the arrangement and how it progresses over the next couple of days. Now then, I have some really pretty pink tulips, and these have come from Lincolnshire. It's quite a soft pink, but I'm informed by my information that they're going to change colour as they mature and as they open. And at the moment, they're quite straight, very strong. The leaf is beautiful on it. It's very good quality foliage, and there's some variegation on the outside of that stem, outside of the leaf, sorry, as well. So I'm looking forward to see how they progress and how they open. And then the stock, these have also come from Lincolnshire. These were how they arrived yesterday with the foliage on. When I start arranging with them, I will remove most of the foliage because that's what tends to smell when they've been in a vase for a few days. It's related to the cabbage family, so you do get that very strong cabbage aroma building up in your house. But isn't that a delightful colour? Quite soft. Cream shades are quite hard to get hold of, I think, in the florist industry. Sometimes they can be quite lemon, but again, it picks up beautifully on the colour of my container that I've chosen to use. So that's the stock. And then I have a small amount of the bottle brush foliage, and this has come from Ireland. This comes from the Irish green guys, and I've got 3 delicate little stems there of a foliage that you might be familiar with from your own garden. Got some of the seed head there as well to give a bit some texture and some added interest. But this will work really well, I think, on the outside of my design. And that's my flowers. So they've perked up really nicely. They're beautifully turgid again now. Always remember, if your flowers are a little floppy, looking a bit sad when you pick them up or when they're delivered, keep them wrapped tight in the paper overnight and they'll soon perk up for you. Use the correct flower food and use nice clean tools and clean vases, clean equipment to store your flowers in. Right, okay, so I've got this cream urn. It does get used quite a lot in demonstrations and it's also used a lot for wedding work as well. And I wanted to create a structure to hold my flowers into place using some forsythia branches. Now I had some huge forsythia delivered here to the shop a few weeks ago and I've kept the stem ends to create a framework effect. So what I've done is I've crisscrossed it to give myself a grid to sit over the top of my container. Now it's not going to win any awards and it's certainly not the best piece of work I've ever done, but I wanted to just experiment with some different types of materials to create a mechanic. I've used natural string to tie it together. Probably if I had spent a bit more time I could have made it more elegant, but I thought it would be something that you could have a go at home. You could use, I nearly said chopsticks then, but you could use chopsticks. You could use kebab sticks, bamboo canes. If you're cutting down trees in the garden at the springtime, you can use the branches there. And all I've done really is created a grid held together by the string there on the top. And if you can see right at the bottom, there is one of the Holly Chapple plastic frames. That's just sitting on the bottom of the container, because if you're using a grid form like this, or if you're using wire netting, you need to have two levels. Otherwise, if you only have one level on the top, the materials tend to move about a bit. So I'm going to aim to get them through the Holly Chapple plastic base at the bottom, and then that will give me 2 points of anchor to hold my material into place. And I'm going to go with something quite natural, quite informal. I'm not going to follow any set rules or set patterns. I'm going to create something that really complements the British flowers, I think, and shows off the curves and the interesting shapes on the stems. So clean, fresh water, and this has got flower food added to it as well. That will help keep the bacteria down in the container. It will also feed the flowers to ensure that the buds and the smaller flowers open fully. And that at the moment that plastic base is just floating on top of the water. But what I will do, hopefully, is anchor it into position with my first couple of stems. And then hopefully, yeah, that's working okay. So what I've done is I've gone through that framework on the top into the plastic container at the bottom, and it's anchoring them into place. And really it's a bit of an experiment. I've been gifted these wonderful flowers from Evolve, so I thought it would be a good way of experimenting with a different type of mechanic. Yeah, and now because I've got two stems in there, that plastic base on the bottom is quite secure. And I'm going to leave the stock quite long. I'm just going to make sure that it's fully in the camera. I'm going to leave them quite long because I'm hoping to maybe reuse them in another design as well, and create some different shapes and styles for you. So if possible, I'm not going to cut too much of the stem length off them. Now we're going to come across the top, and yeah, that's working quite well. So maybe I will win an award for my inventive structure that's holding my flowers into place. I'm sure it's not a new idea, I'm sure it's been done plenty of times before, but it's kept me occupied. So they've got a lovely link now between the colour of my base and the really creamy colour of the beautiful stock. The scent is absolutely wonderful. And I've left a little bit of foliage on the outside, but made sure that there's definitely no foliage going into the base. And Again, you're looking at it at a slightly different angle from me, but I've tried to create just a very informal structure, and I've used the line material around the outside. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, because this is a geotropic flower, it follows the light, it'll move away from gravity, so those tips will change position by tomorrow. But for now, that looks really quite elegant. Now I think I'm going to leave the Alstromeria, it's not Alstromeria, I'm going to leave the irises until they've opened a little bit more and use them in maybe another arrangement later in the week. I'm going to use the softer pinks in this design. Now the Callistemon, I think that's right, isn't it? Or the bottle brush, I'm going to use in 2 pieces. And this one will give me some height. And again, remember to catch in that plastic frame on the bottom. And then the larger piece can come more towards the front because it's a bit bushier and it's going to give me a strengthened focal point. And again, this really soft line material of the bottle brush works really well to accentuate my outline shape. How are we doing so far? That's looking lovely. Quite pleased with how that's coming together. So we're just going to move the irises out of the way. Now for me, the Alstromeria are going to suit the centre of the design. They're a larger flower head, and when that opens, it's going to really give me a good strong focal point. A bit shorter with that one, so we'll bring these towards the front. And of course, if you've got foliage in the garden and you're having a box of these beautiful flowers delivered, then you could incorporate some foliage in there as well. But for now, I'm just going to use the flowers that have been provided for me by Evolve. And nice concentration there of the Alstromeria towards the centre. And that's going to give me a beautiful link again between the stock and my container, but it's also going to give me a contrast in shape with my Ranunculus and my tulips. Gorgeous, I think. So let's see where we're going to go now. Let's incorporate the Ranunculus. We'll have a look at each individual stem. Now that's just so pretty. And I've got 2 of these darker colours. Now darker colours generally are quite recessive and attract your eye and are often used towards the focal point, but because I like the movement in that one, I think I'm going to put it on the outside. And again, make sure you remove any foliage off the stem. Have a look at the way they shape and the way they move, and make use of the flower in the position that it's naturally fallen. So we've got that little nodding head of the Ranunculus down over one side. I think at the moment the Ranunculus are my new favourite flower. Something I've not used a great deal of in the past because I always think of it as being quite soft and not very long lasting. But they have been, they're absolutely amazing to work with. And such delightful colours as well. So I also need to remember to bring some flower material towards the back, otherwise everything is going to tip forward. And because I've got just quite a simple framework in there, it's really important that the balance of this design works well. And just gonna add them in, dotting the colour around so that there's rhythm created between the heads of the Ranunculus and helps your eye to move from one side of the design to the other. Now once you start getting some stems crossing in the middle, you start to build up almost a framework in the middle that holds the stems into place. And I think the beauty of this type of arranging as well is that you can move the heads in and out, and there's no risk of you creating holes in the floral foam. So you're a beginner, this is a good way of learning to arrange flowers. Because it doesn't matter, it doesn't damage the flowers if you're pulling them in and out of the arrangement. Now I've put a knife alongside me to encourage myself to use a knife because the soft stemmed flowers like the ranunculus and the tulips are much better cut with a sharp knife rather than the scissors, except old habits die hard and I keep forgetting to use it. So if you've got a sharp craft knife or one of the florist knives, it is much better for the tulip and the ranunculus even. And again, just keep going, adding them in. Nice clean straight cut on the bottom, and make sure that they're going right down deep into the water. Oh, I'm quite liking what I'm doing here. So I really do like this loose shape. It's very popular at the moment, and we do it a lot for wedding work where the bride doesn't want any floral foam used. And it's quite soft, it's very almost translucent, it has a very light and airy look to it. Now you could add some darker foliage into there and that would create a very different design. It would be quite dramatic if you added in some darker types of foliage. But for a minute I'm just going to use these beautiful flowers that we've been given. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the tulip next, and like the stock, this is going to move towards the light after a couple of days. And just going to, for a minute, use them on the full stem, get some towards the outside. And then bring the darker pink colour towards the centre. Now the foliage at the moment on the tulip is really pretty and it's really good quality, but it will deteriorate a little bit over time. But for now it's good enough to be used in the arrangement. And it'll be interesting, as I said in the beginning, to see how these heads are going to open up and how they're going to change. And then my final two, I'm going to cut down a bit shorter to create a bit of depth. The design needs to have some recession. It needs to make your eye travel into the base to give it that three-dimensional effect. And hopefully you've got a really pretty design. So I've started with something that's quite traditional. We'll see what other people come up with their flowers from Evolve. But I really like that. It's very much on trend at the moment. The colour combination is very popular as well. But this very natural style of arranging is oh so popular at the moment. You'll see it everywhere at the moment. And I think hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight on what to do with a gorgeous array of British flowers. So don't forget, if you want to have a box of flowers delivered to yourself, have a look at evolveflowers.com. They're a wholesaler, a florist. So don't forget, if you're looking to have a box of flowers delivered to your house, look at evolveflowers.com and they'll give you lots of information about the flowers that you can have delivered. And I'm looking forward to using them again in the future. Hope you've enjoyed.